Let's first start with the red flags. What are they?
Sean, I have that 30-page COVID-19 expenditure disclosure report, and it really raises more questions than answers. Basically, you'd ask yourself how a company basically that was a government supplier from the 29th of April received an amount of 116 million rands in terms of procurement. That is Denan Consulting. Another one received a government supplier tender basically from the 25th of June and also received an amount of about 79 million rands. But here's an interesting one. It was a media agency basically that supplied toiletries to government to the tune of 124 million rands, Shahan. Some of the findings that you'll find in this document. Also, ALTA has been doing its own digging into that. That's the organization Undoing Tax Abuse. And I spoke to the chief officer, that is Wayne Duvenach. Let's listen to what he had to say over there.
There are about 13% of the companies, 48 of them have got over 10 million rand contracts each, amounting to 87% of the expenditure. And then when we start looking a bit deeper, we find these companies have recently been registered on the government's database, or even recently registered as companies with CIPC. Some of them one director. There's one Maponya Medical Services or Solutions, 75 million rand, registered in March of this year. But the big one, Denan, was deregistered. The company was deregistered and re-registered in June of this year only. Gets a tender for 117 million rand, one director, and its address is not in a production area, it's in a residential area. These are big red flags. What we need to see now is get more detail around, well, what did we procure? What is the value for money that we obtained? Could we have got more PPE equipment? And it seems that the SIU agree with us because they've already started to stop the money flow in one or two of those transactions.
Pretty serious, right? So what's the government saying?
Well, so I'll be catching up with the DDG of Communications in the Gauteng province, that is Thabo Maseko, tomorrow morning at 9:30. Of course, just to touch on those red flags, you heard some of them from Wayne Duvenach, basically, as to how companies that aren't basically procured for that specific department, offering services that they aren't even down for, basically. But I also touched with Wayne Duvenach, basically the due diligence, whether it has been done or not. Let's listen in on what he had to say on that.
Certainly in a lot of them it doesn't seem that way, because if you are registering with the government database very recently, and what we see, the amounts of money that have been procured, it seems that they are dropping the ball when it comes to real meaningful due diligence done on these companies. You have to establish whether A, they have the potential and the ability to provide the services, and B, whether they've been correctly registered and are legally entities.
Now, SADTU is calling on the Basic Education Department to delay the start of the National Senior Certificate exams. The union's National Executive Committee met at the weekend. It believes many pupils won't be in a position to fully prepare. SADTU is now pleading with the Education Department to start exams from the 5th of November to allow pupils more time.